welcome back. I'm the Book Guy, and today is a good day because we're once again talking about kids' books. I love middle grade books, and I wish adults talked about them more often, because if we want to see kids reading, then adults need to read with them. And kids' books are perfect for bridging the age gap and appealing to both kids and adults. Or, adults can just read it on their own. That's cool too. Do you know you can just watch Bluey anytime you want?
Does that make sense?
No.
Anyway, today we're talking about Jane Doe, and this is a portal fantasy. There is a magical manor with nearly infinite rooms that connect to every other world in existence. And we go through adventures on all of these worlds. There's monsters, magic, lost civilizations, post-apocalyptic worlds, and of course the
Power of friendship.
This is a series that's often described as Narnia meets Indiana Jones. But what's extra special about today's series is just how serious it is.
Okay, he's serial.
These are kids' books that don't rely on farts, poop, and toilet humor to be interesting. In fact, there's not that much humor at all, by intent. Instead, these are intense stories with high stakes, scary bad guys, real danger, heartbreak, and deep themes. This series does not talk down to kids at all. I'm extra excited to talk about the series today because the author, Jeremy Lachlan, is a fellow Australian like myself. And so while I have personally been seeing Jane Doe books on bookshelves for years now, I suspect many of my international viewers wouldn't have even heard of this one. Also, disclaimer, I have met Jeremy a few times and I consider him a friend. He's even going to be a guest on my channel this weekend, joining me for an author interview. But I want to be clear, this is still going to be an unbiased and objective review of the series. No special treatment.
Give me special treatment.
So let's look at these books, spoiler-free, listing all strengths and any weaknesses, and we'll see if it's going to be a good series for you. On the small island town of Blue Haven, everyone avoids the manor. This ancient temple entrance leads to a vast labyrinth of traps, monsters, and rumors of greater mysteries beyond. Only the bravest enter the manor. That is until one stormy night when an earthquake strikes and someone comes out of the manor. A man in a catatonic state of silence and an infant girl. Who are they and what world did they come from? No one knows. Now everyone mistrusts this mysterious girl, Jane Doe, and blames her for every misfortune that strikes their small town. But Jane Doe is tied to the mystery of the manor itself. Is she prepared to uncover the truth of her origin? This story is all about adventure, so constantly moving forward into new environments and exploring strange new worlds. And it's really good. You know how a lot of adventure stories just involve a lot of walking, or they claim to be adventure stories but then spend 6 years in one location, and if they ever leave that location, the story falls apart. No, this story is pure imagination and creativity dialed up to 11. Every few pages has a new location with new ideas and new threats. This was genuinely impressive, just how many concepts and places fit into a 4-book series, and how it continually introduces fresh designs. Seriously, a lot of authors just can't do this. The big strength of this series is that we have 4 separate worlds. Now, each book focuses on a new world, and that's what keeps it fresh. So first we have the manor, or the cradle, in book 1, an impossible labyrinth of traps and secret passages through an ancient temple. Then a literal post-apocalypse desert planet, sort of like Dune crossed with Mad Max, or Tatooine, or Canberra.
Wretched hive of scum and villainy.
The third book has a lost jungle civilization with frickin' dinosaurs and evil cults. And finally, an ice world with ancient secrets and a frickin' zombie horde. Yeah, things get wild. These 4 separate worlds actually deliver on the book's premise of a manor that connects to every world. You know how many movies claim to have a multiverse and then it's just like 5 versions of New York?
Each more identical than the last.
These are genuinely fresh locations that make the world building feel infinite. But more on that later. Yet, as great as the adventure plot lines are, the true focus of the book, in my opinion, are the mysteries. I mean, the name is Jane Doe. Everything, and I mean everything, is shrouded in mystery at the start. And Jane's adventure is all about uncovering the many clues that lead to big revelations. One big secret is how all of this came to be. Who built the manor between the worlds, and why? What is its true purpose? Then there's the mystery of Jane Doe herself. What happened to her parents, and what world does she truly come from?
Where was I before I was born?
Yeesh.
And there are several villains in the story with their own mysterious plans. Where did they come from, and what do they truly intend? Now, of course, I can't say much more about these mystery plotlines because they're just everywhere, but it was my favorite part of the story, just how many secrets there were and how the reveals were all tied to the exploration. Meaning, we explore these worlds and find the truth within them. So they feel like one big connected story. The mystery and the adventure plotlines serve each other. This is a really big deal because in a lot of adventure stories, we have cool action scenes over here and then long segments where the characters stop and talk forever about mystery or other plotlines. And it's like, one plotline is action, one plotline is conversations, and that's when the subplots can feel boring by comparison. But because here the mysteries are part of the adventure, both types of plotlines feel equally interesting. It was very well balanced.
Perfectly balanced.
Now let's talk more about these worlds. Building a fantasy world in a kid's book can be a bit tricky. If the world building gets too simple, kids get bored. If it's too complicated, kids get overwhelmed.
I'm bored.
Hi, Board. Nice to meet you.
You've got to find the specific balance of including heaps of wonderful and inspiring ideas, but without bogging down the story in detail. And that's what really impressed me about the Jane Doe series, how rich and well thought out the world was without being too complicated.
It's simple, yet magical.
For a kid's book, this really goes hard into original fantasy. There's a crazy amount of fantasy elements across the 4 books. So, avoiding spoilers here very strictly, the universe has its own creation myth, with ancient gods and the war against chaos. There's a real magic system with great cost and high risk. There's multiple peoples on different worlds with their different cultures. There's a secret history that's slowly pieced together. And there's various levels of technology on different worlds, with some of them being almost science fiction. And I kid you not, there's even a lot of playing around with time, such as time warping, time moving at different speed, time paradoxes. It's incredible. There's so many ideas here. Of course, I can't be too specific without getting into spoiler territory, but there's some really chewy fantasy concepts here, even though it's a kid's book. It's perfect for getting new readers into this genre. The real joy is exploring the 4 different worlds I mentioned earlier, so 1 world per book. It means each story in the series has a unique flavor, and it's distinct from the one before. After all, kids' books are supposed to be full of magic and wonder. That's why adults go back to middle grade books. They're a pleasant little escape for us grumpy, soul-crushed Grinches.
4:30. Stare into the abyss.
Yet so often, I read kids' books that keep the world building all light and fluffy, because they assume readers can't handle too much complexity. But in my opinion, kids want that excitement. That's why we read fantasy. The trick is to not cram tons of exposition into your face every time we see something new. We don't need 1,000 years of history for every world. Kids would get bored with that.
Blessed is the man who does not walk in...
Instead, the world building has just enough detail to be interesting and then keeps the story moving. Ultimately, the worlds are big and colourful without going hard into details, and I think that's the perfect balance for a kid's book. There's one other common mistake that I think this series avoids, and that is simply gaps in logic. We often see kids' books that just have a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't make sense when you stop and think about it. And then when you read the series again as an adult, you're like, that was really dumb. Sometimes authors think that kids' books mean you can get away with plot holes and sloppy logic.
How do they defecate?
It's a kid's book, Santiago!
Although, yes, it's debatable whether or not that actually matters, but anyway, my point is, Jane Doe does not have that problem. The logic here was airtight. In fact, by the 4th book, it was clear that everything had been thought out to this point from the beginning, and it fit together really well. So this may be a middle grade book series, but it's still got heaps of interesting fantasy concepts, a strong continuity and plot logic, even while avoiding some of those finer details. So it's a great balance.
Perfectly balanced.
And it leaves a lot more time for characters. Yet another common problem in kids' books is flat characters, where the characters are just one-dimensional viewpoints that the reader is meant to project onto. They're not written like people, they're just there as tropes to function as roles in the story. Happens all the time.
But there's a reason why tropes are tropes, is because they work.
But once again, that doesn't happen here. Many of these characters are partially tropes, but then there is considerable effort to make these characters more than just their tropes. Now, to be clear, I don't think this has super deep character writing. I mean, it's an action-adventure series, not a character drama, but I still think this has much stronger character writing and it goes deeper than we often get in this genre. So Jane Doe is our protagonist, obviously. She's the outsider who everyone mistrusts, very much the social outcast trope. But where she gets more interesting is her fierce loyalty to the few people in her life. Jane Doe starts the story as a carer for her father, who is catatonic and disabled, so she would do anything for her dad. Jane's also very socially awkward. As an outsider, she just doesn't have a lot of friends, and people think she's cursed, so they don't want her coming to school. So when she does talk to people, she has this earnest sincerity, crossed with a stubborn defiance, and it's really nuanced. I very much like it. There's enough layers here to make Jane her own protagonist, not just a copy-paste of every other middle grade protagonist ever.
I am my own person.
Then we have Winifred Robin. She's the older explorer who has had many adventures inside the manor. She's basically this world's Indiana Jones. You know, hardcore, knowledgeable, and has decades of stories behind her, so she's our mentor character. But where she goes a step beyond her trope is her irreverence. Where other mentors are wise and patient, Winifred has no fancy decorum and just tells it like it is. And our last character is Roth, our villain. Now, oh boy, for a kid's book, this is one hell of a villain. He's a scary dude. Roth is missing part of his face. He cannot talk because of the severe injuries he suffers, but he has powerful telepathic magic that can rip apart a person's mind. So he's slowly taking over the manor and trying to claim more worlds. Like, seriously, this is one properly scary villain. Now, I know I've praised this series a lot so far, and people sometimes assume that if I'm only praising a book, then it's not a sincere review. So, hand on my heart, are there any flaws in this series? Well, I think there is one big difficult area that could be the series' greatest strength and potentially its greatest weakness. These are serious books. Now, I mentioned at the start that the series doesn't rely on humor. That's very true, but it's more than just a lack of humor. It's a rather mature story for its age group. The villain is scary, the stakes are high, there are some big themes in the story, characters do bad things, and some characters die.
I mean, he could die, can't he?
I mean, from the first chapter, Jane is caring for her disabled dad. That's a hard thing for a kid to deal with. The scene perfectly sets the tone for the rest of the series of showing some of the real-life challenges faced by our heroine. It even deals with moral grayness. Some characters have good motivations and do bad things. Other characters are bad people who have good moments. Like, we have anti-heroes in this series who were some of my favorite characters. I think the serious tone of the story can be a strength and a weakness, and it entirely depends on the reader's preference. Some people will hear this and be like, yes, finally, a kid's book that's good. And others will think, this is not why I read kids' books. Now, don't get me wrong, the series is not like Bridge to Terabithia or A Monster Calls. You know, kids' books that are all about facing the harsh darkness of life. This is still a wonderful adventure story, but it also doesn't talk down to its audience, and it shows some of the complexities of the world. I think it's a wonderful middle ground between pure entertainment and really heavy content. So this is a very female-led series, and in the best possible way, because it gives women center stage without just making all the men idiots. And that's always my preference. Jane and her best friend Violet are very much a dynamic duo. Then Winifred is the wise old mentor character, and they all kick butt together. There's also a lot of different peoples, races, and cultures across many other worlds, and whenever we meet these other peoples, we learn about their way of life with a deep reverence and respect. A common theme within the story is that people are people, even if they come from entirely different worlds.
Give Hadithi the respect he deserves.
This is also a queer-coded series, so there are subtle hints of queer attraction and even a same-sex relationship later in the books. I think it's low-key at first, and then becomes a little bit more obvious as the series progresses, but it's still a very gentle introduction to the concept. For a content warning, there's a bit of action violence, so gunshots, booby traps, explosions, that sort of thing. The bad guys are properly scary for a kid's books, within reason. There's plenty of monsters and even a zombie horde, so there is some frightening content. There is some discussions around, shall we say, dodgy parenting. So some parents are hyper-controlling, borderline abusive in the series, and other parents are disabled and can't be there for their kids. It's an important theme in books for kids, how to deal with parents who aren't fulfilling their roles. And there's a fair bit of moral complexity in the story as well, so introducing kids to the fact that some people lie and cheat and just suck in general. So that's an important lesson. Is the ending worth it? Yes, definitely. More than that, the ending in the series is essential. You see, this is a linear series that is always moving forward into a new adventure. So the slogan even says, "Forward is the only way." So these 4 books are not just 4 episodic separate adventures. It's all one cohesive story that really builds towards the great climactic final mystery. Each story is, I believe, more epic than the last. So please don't think it's an episodic story and you can stop after just one. I'd strongly encourage you to read all 4 and see how the grand scale puzzle all comes together, because it is absolutely worth it. And how much should you try? Well, the series is great from book 1. So Cradle of Worlds won a bunch of awards. So this isn't a series that takes a little while to get good. It's good from page 1. You can try book 1 and you'll know right away if the series is right for you. One last thing I'll add in today's video is I always make these videos spoiler free because I'm trying to encourage reading, but this is one series where I swear it's extra frustrating to avoid spoilers because there are so many mystery plot lines. The mystery plot lines are like a minefield. The point is, I had to leave out so much of the good content in this series just to avoid the mystery plot lines. I really did. So just know that it's a lot better than I'm making it out to be. Well, that about does it for me. I hope you'll give this one a try. Good luck and happy reading. If you want to know more about this series, join me this weekend for a live interview with the author Jeremy Lachlan. I'll put a link to that interview in the description below so you can mark your watch in case you do want to join us live, or feel free to just watch the replay anytime you like. I hope to see you there. Coming up, we'll be talking about Brandon Sanderson's middle grade series, a criminally underrated series, Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians. It's such a great middle grade series. Guys, if you want to support my work, I have my own books, The Immortal Investigations. Although these are not kids' books, there's sex and violence, but a ton of magic and mystery. Check them out in the link below. I also have an online shop and a Patreon. I would love it if you would have a look at them. Otherwise, subscribe for more book reviews just like this one, and I'll see you again very soon. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy a good book today. Bye!